Yeah, when it first happened to me, there was, nothing wrong with it. But I'd go to work, and that's the only time I'd change my clothes or something like that, where you have a look at yourself. So when I changed my overalls, and I found part of my leg was swollen up, and then, so I go up there, and the doctor has a look, and he has a feel around. He said, "Oh, I think it's just a pulled muscle." I said, "Yeah, I thought that too." He said, "But you've got a note on there that I have to send you to Waikato to get a scan." And that was about 9:30, 10 in the morning. So he said, "You got to weigh up?" I said, "Yeah, I can drive up." So I drove up there. And then it took most of the day before you had to turn, all this thing. And then when they did all those, is the sound things or whatever they do. And she said, "Yeah, you've got a blockage there, all right,
When he was first diagnosed, he got a call to go back to Waikato, and it was sooner than we had planned with his appointment, so we sort of knew that something wasn't quite right, and our appointment time came and it went, and we were still sitting there, and all these people that came after us were going in and leaving, and we were still sitting there, and eventually, sort of 2 or 3 hours later, we got in to see Dr. Goodman, and that's when he gave Tene the bad news that it was leukemia, and I think I sort of just kind of went into a bit of state of shock at that time. It was not what we expected, just sort of, he went from a DVT to leukemia. It was, a bit mind-blowing. And as we drove all the way, I drove all the way back to Tokoroa, Tene slept, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. It was just one of those things that just kept going and over, and sort of why it shouldn't have happened, but you gradually sort of read up more and more on it. We were given a lot of information. I'm a great one for looking on the internet to see what else I can find out about it. And
Hospital, it wasn't too far away.
it was over 12 months before you actually started your chemo.
Oh, yes.
Because he was having blood tests very regularly, and it was felt, or Dr. Goodman felt, that it was, while they weren't changing, it was better to leave things. Right? He said, "Why make you sicker, which we're going to do, than what you are now, so we just watch it." And it was a good 12, 14 months until he went down, started to go downhill, breathing. And
No. So then we went into that long haul of getting chemo and all that sort of thing. So, and surprising how many people don't know what chemo is. I didn't. I thought it was some injection or something like that. Then now it's a dosage of of sort of liquid stuff, and
it was pretty scary the day you went into hospital, wasn't it? We were both sort of a bit uptight, not knowing. But the staff were on Ward 25 were just A1. They were fantastic. They took the time, they explained everything, and when they explained sort of what it was and how often you had it, so we didn't even know that. I thought, perhaps it was something you had every day, but it was only over a period of time, and then there was the recovery time. I was, from my point of view, I was very, very surprised at Tene's reaction or non-reaction to it. It made him very, very tired, and he, especially the first one, he tended to sleep all the way through it. It had its ups and downs. He had some temperatures, but my only sort of thought of chemo was that it makes you violently ill, and that's what I thought he was going to be doing, and it didn't do that at all.
I think just thinking about it now, there's a lot of day-to-day things going on. We have, there's a professor, Dr. Paul Tapsell. He was taking some carvings of Ngāti Whakauas, that's our tribe around here, over to England and France, and you're on the short list for that. So you're trying to work out, I'll get through this quick, so I'm going to jump on that plane, And then, because he found out a few other things when he was going through the checks. The checks were thorough, So he had one of the Asian doctors going through, checking this. Then he found that I had a leaking heart, So I said, oh, you know, and you think, oh, now we're going to be held up with that. So there was an area of more of a nuisance than a cure. Then then you're sort of going through that.
I
It
found one
was-
of the easiest ways for me to get through it was I kept a journal of every day, what happened, who visited, who his nurses were, what doctors came round, his results of his blood tests or whatever he'd had done that day. And I think it just probably filled in a little bit of time for me, but I just thought it was something that perhaps afterwards, because Tene slept through a lot or he wasn't, the chemo brain that they talk about wasn't kind of perhaps taking in everything that happened because the doctors had come round and we'd kind of go back and talk about what the doctors had said because I'd taken it all in where Tene wasn't taking it. That was one of the very fortunate things that Tene did have all that leave and they were great. So we didn't have financial worries over that time he was going to be off like I guess some people can do. So that certainly was very, very helpful for us.
Like it's not all live happily ever after. This is it's like like when I run out of breath, and I haven't done anything, and it's the questions that I was asked immediately coming home from the doctor. I said, oh, don't know what. He said, do you wake up at night and you're breathless? No, and then 3 or 4 months after, this is what's happening. So they already know, this is a self-ordained doctorship, that this is not happening. Dr. Nan, who's the heart specialist, he says, your heart's good and everything's right back to where it was. And yet I'm huffing and puffing, and then it's, that wind part, it's a reality, it's true.
But Tene's also had prostate cancer, which he's come through and got a clearance for. So once they told us about the leukemia, it was the first thing that went through my mind is, oh God, I hope it's not a secondary one because they don't have a great outcome. But Dr. Goodman assured us that it wasn't, so that was a little bit of light relief among all this. And so it's good now that he's sort of in remission and has been for 18 months or even a bit longer because I think it was only after about the second chemo that he was in remission, so coming up 2 years.
And it's like, we're getting married and my kids say, geez, aren't you a bit old for that, And then the different ones will say, you've gone through this and this, is there anything left?